Hello, guys, welcome to this podcast, Everyday Talkies, which ironically does not come out daily. I am Anshul and I talk about random things to random people, majorly about life, perspectives, and thinking process. It's like an interview, or let's say more of a conversation with one or two guests about random topics that interest us. To be really honest, it's just a way to reduce my inhibitions in talking to people. So come join me and enjoy. Hello, guys, we are back with a new episode of Everyday Talkies. Today, I have my college friend as a guest in this podcast. I will not waste too much time and directly give him the platform to introduce himself with the fake name that he has decided and tell us why did he choose that name.
Hi Anshul. First of all, thanks for inviting me to your podcast, Everyday Talkies. I really like the name. Yeah, the name or alias which I choose to come up with for this episode is Chris, or you can say Chris Gardner. So the reason I have chosen this name is because of getting inspired from a movie called The Pursuit of Happiness. So Chris Gardner is not actually a fictional character. He is a real businessman. He's a brokerage guy. So he is an American businessman and motivational speaker, and he's the owner of a brokerage firm, which is Gardner Rich and Company. So this guy was portrayed in a movie called Pursuit of Happiness, and the reason I really like his character and fictional name is because I believe in his skill of perseverance. So in the whole movie, I've seen this guy struggling throughout for every single thing which he wanted to achieve, from getting an internship to getting a complete job, from nothing to something. So if you have not seen this movie, you should first go watch it. I think you really like it, and yeah, that's the reason I chose to go ahead with Chris.
Yeah, I actually have seen this movie and it's an amazing movie and it's a treat to watch for everybody. I don't really usually watch these movies, but this was one movie which really moved me. It's obviously a great recommendation and it's a good note to start this podcast with the name of Chris Gardner, who is, I think, the symbol of perseverance and hard work. So just let me give a brief thing. That is, I know you obviously as college mates, and we have done quite a few projects together. We studied together and we have had our few ventures together which not worked too well, but yeah, it was always a learning experience for us. But I know you as the design guy. We used to call you as the design guy. If there was any design requirement anywhere in the college or something which we got stuck in, the first name that I usually used to think was you. So tell us, how did you delve into this world of design and why do you find design to be too fascinating? Because I understand software engineering has its many caveats. People usually delve into becoming a developer or something or the other, but you had a unique passion of working more towards design and the different aspects of it, which I had not known before a few days when I interacted with you and learned about the new things that you're working on. So how about first tell us why and how did you get into this world of design and what inspired you, and then we can talk about the new things that you're working on right now.
Sure. Before I start about telling my story of how I got into design, first of all, I'd like to open it to everyone that I've not pursued any degree in design as in particular. I am a software developer. So the reason or the way I've ended up being a designer was, I think I was in 8th standard. So this all started when my elder brother, I have an elder brother who is 2 years elder than me, who had just finished his 10th board exams. And it's obvious that once we finish our board exams, we get a long summer vacation and we get to, our parents force us into getting into hobbies. And so during that time, when I was doing my 8th standard, he had completed his board exam. He was done with everything and he was enjoying his vacation. My parents, they told him to, start new things. So he started with different kind of hobbies. Some of them were outdoor hobbies. Some of them were related to technologies, as he is also a software developer. So he started with different softwares, call it CorelDRAW or Photoshop. So these were some softwares he was learning just for fun during the vacation, apart from all the other activities. And he used to get some copies of books for references where he can study from, he can practice at home. So during that time, I found a book for Photoshop, and it was not actually a very formal book written by a writer. It was just like a tuition notes made by, someone who's teaching them the software. I started reading the book. I started looking at him doing things, trying to edit images in software. So I was fascinated by that. I thought, I should also give it a try. So both of us were interested towards computers and both of us did software development. So from our very beginning, we were both very attracted towards computers. So that's why we were doing all these activities. So I also myself started trying to get a hang of that software. I started to follow some instructions from that book, took some help from my brother, and this was repeating like every day. And during my holidays, I used to spend my whole day doing that. I still remember that I didn't used to give him his turn of doing the practice of tuition. I used to take that. I used to, be always using the computer. So we only had one computer back at that time at our place. So he always used to tell me that it is supposed to be done by me, not you. You go study, you do your work. Yeah, I was interested in Photoshop, not very advanced way, but yeah, I was just trying my way out of it. And then slowly, once the vacation got over, he started with his studies. So meanwhile, I was doing Photoshop. I was editing few things here and there. So I still remember, this is a confession kind of thing. I used to take my photos, edit the background, put it on Facebook just to, surprise people out of the background which I was using, because I was not there at that place, but I can do that. I used to show off. So that was one way where the first time I displayed some of my work, though when I look at them currently, I really get embarrassed. So that's one thing. Yeah, so this was till my 11th and 12th, I used to edit images. After that point, my friends all got to know, oh, this guy does this, like, he can help us with this. So they used to also tell me, can you do this for me? Can you edit slightly this? Can you make this a little? Can you change the lights in this? Can you put some shadows, this and all that? So I used to help them. I used to do it for them, and I found that I like that thing. It's not something which I'm forced to do. It's something which I like to do. So that's one thing I recognize, that it's a good hobby to keep it in background. Although I was primarily interested in computers only, after finishing my 12th standard, I started pursuing a degree in computer science. Once I got into college, I again had this hobby in the background. We had many co-curricular activities in our universities. We had different departments who used to take care of different things in our university. So we had a department called CSA. Do you remember the full form of CSA?
Center for Social Action, if I remember correctly.
It was a voluntary group of people who used to take care of things around society. They used to take initiatives for homeless people or kids who were not given the access to education, or they just used to help society as a whole, I can say. So I was a part of that group or community, you can say, and I used to help them, design cards, or you can say some kind of templates or storybooks or something where they can promote their idea. Mm-hmm. So this was the first time where I shifted my skills from editing images to getting into card designs or graphical design. This was during my first semester. I did that, and gradually when moving to second and third year, things got, real serious with studying. So I had to leave those things around. But parallelly, I was doing some other activities in our computers department, science group, something related to designing posters, designing certificates, or designing, let's say, just banners for Computer Fest. So this is how, I transitioned from making photos to designing posters, banners, and this was still till my second year. But then parallelly, as I told you that I was a developer as well, I was a front-end development. I'll just like to clear this term, what is front-end development? So front-end development is something which, a developer who's involved in development, he develops something which is visually visible to those who are accessing the website, as compared to back-end development, which is something which handles your database, your management of site, how things will appear, what will happen if you do some actions. So that is back-end development. Mm-hmm. But when comparing it to front-end development, it is how the website will look, how it will work on different devices, how it's visually appealing, and coding that part of the website is called front-end development. Not just website, it can be any application as well. So as a developer, I was into that. I was into the visual part of development. I was a front-end developer. When I used to do front-end development, I found myself that before even doing any front-end development, I used to design that website in a design tool, call it Photoshop. Till that time, I was not aware with interaction design tool. I used to still use Photoshop and Illustrator to make websites, design websites before even coding them. So I used to do that. So because I never preferred coding websites directly, because that point of development never gave me push to explore the creative side of websites. So just to make my mind free, I always used to design them first and then code them. That was one of where I transitioned from graphical designer to interaction designer. That was just a starting of it. So later when I got into my third year, I had done some internships also regarding front-end development, and so I was still a front-end developer in my own eyes. My whole goal was I want to stay as a front-end developer because I like this. I like the visual part of development. Mm-hmm. But then while I was looking for jobs, while it was almost done with my university life, I had this question that what should I perceive as my career? Like, should it be a front-end development or should it be something related to design? Then I have an elder brother, as I already mentioned. I used to discuss with him. I used to talk to him, what is correct with me? I'm not able to figure out what should I do. At one point of time, I want to be a developer as well. At one point of time, I want to be a designer as well. What should I do? He asked me two questions. Whether would you like to develop a site and then design it, or whether would you like to design it first and then develop it? Then I obviously said I would like to design it. And his second question was, if given two options, would you just design a website or would you just develop a website? So if these are the two options which I have, which one would I prefer? I got the answer from inner self. I would in any case prefer to design it first and then develop it, or even consider about developing it. So there it was clear that it is design which is, important for me to start with, but I have the skills to develop it as well. Is something one extra skill I can count. So that's where I got my clarity. It's not development, even though I like it, even though I'm capable to do it, but it's design that makes things interesting for me. And that's how I took that decision. Now that it's my final year and I'm searching for jobs, it doesn't need to be development related job. It has to be the design related job. And that's how I started looking for jobs. And it was not a campus placement. It was my own searching for jobs. I applied at multiple places and then I found a job at a really good fintech company. And now I'm an interaction designer.
So for somebody who was not familiar with these terms or these jargons of it, how would you explain an interaction designer in the simplest of terms?
We can say that interaction designer or user interaction designer or user experience designer, these terms are used interchangeably. Mm-hmm. So interaction designer is someone who designs things how they appear digitally. It can be a website, it can be a mobile app, or it can be your digital watch as well nowadays. Mm-hmm. So these are the things which are products, which are digital products nowadays, and people value experience. So it's not just a utility, it's not just how things getting done, it's about an experience as well. So to improve that experience, to make it more accessible to all kinds of audience, there's a need for interaction designer. What he can do is, his job is to make sure that things are, visually balanced, visually they are aligned, they are properly set, laid off in such a way that it's accessible for all age groups, it's accessible for all user personas, be it a student, be it a 40-year-old guy, or be it anyone who's from any other age group who just wants to get things done. To make sure that their experience is proper, interaction designer comes into picture. He takes care of how the typography has to be, the font size, the color of the fonts, the backgrounds, the images, the button size, all these things which you interact with in your mobile phone or your website, where you make actions, where you consume data and give your input into that, and all these things are managed accordingly, are done by interaction design.
Oh, that's actually a cool thing, because usually people don't know about these niche markets, I would say, in the computer world, because I've seen many people who want to do computer engineering and the only thing that they know about is, either becoming a website developer or app developer. So that's about it. They don't know what goes behind in developing a particular website or an app. There are multiple subheads, as you clearly mentioned here. And interaction design seems to be a really good option for somebody who is more inclined towards designing as you are. So that's actually a good thing to think about, and for somebody who might be looking into this area, might want to research in this. So thank you for imparting us with this knowledge. It actually helps. And let's move on to something which I'm pretty sure that you are eager to talk about, because we were discussing this, I think, a few days before, and you were researching on this for quite a while, and we thought of discussing this topic in this podcast. So the topic which I have no idea about and I have done no research, just to know everything about it from you, it's biomimicry. It's a new term for me as well, though if I break it down, it seems to me that it's something which might be nature related and some nature copying to the most rudimentary sense. I might be butchering this in the worst way possible, but enlighten us on what is biomimicry and what made you so excited in researching about this or learning about this.
So I think you have already scratched the surface by saying somewhere related to nature or copying nature. This is a definition by Janine Benyus. So biomimicry, according to her, is a practice that learns from and mimics the strategies which are found in nature. And the whole idea is to solve human design challenges. and find hope along the way. So, as you said, it is about copying or mimicking the strategies from nature. What I feel the biomimicry is, it's about observing the nature. It's about looking at how nature will solve the problem. How is nature doing that particular thing, which I want to solve? It's not about taking a part of nature, an organism or element out of nature, and then using that in your whole strategy. It's about using the process. It's about using the idea, just the idea, not anything else apart from that. Getting inspired from the nature, the process of nature, and how nature solves it. It's about biomimicry.
So, like, how did you come across this topic? And let us know some examples that might have been implemented in real world.
I personally came across with biomimicry was from a YouTube video. So I follow this YouTube channel called Vox, and they keep on making some informational videos or videos related to what is happening in the current affairs. They have a really good way of conveying information, the animation and every part, and I'm really fascinated by how people put in efforts to make animation out of educational stuff. So yeah, I used to follow that channel, and they had made a video regarding what is biomimicry, and this was back I think 2-3 years ago, and I have seen that video. I was not very interested in biomimicry at that point, but I got to know about it. But recently I went into a discussion with one of my colleague in my office, and we had a good discussion about how biomimicry is implemented across the world, or how it's changing lives of people, and how we designer can take inspiration out of biomimicry. So he just inspired me, he just motivated me to just do some research. He helped me. He himself also shared his own ideas, and that's how I jumped into looking for stuff into biomimicry, what actually was biomimicry. So earlier I knew what was biomimicry, but then I started looking for examples, the history of biomimicry, and the ways to implement biomimicry. Coming about examples of biomimicry, there are a lot of examples present in our current environment as well we can take. Let me start with the examples which people can relate, examples which made it very big in the history. So a very first example is bullet trains. It seem like normal trains, but there's a history and there's a huge part of bullet train inspired from nature. So let me talk about. So bullet trains are obviously much faster compared to normal trains, and they reduce the travel time of people. And that's the reason they were invented, right?
Yeah.
But they had a problem. So this is about Shinkansen. I'm not really sure if I'm pronouncing the name correctly. Shinkansen is a place in Japan, and they obviously had bullet trains over there. But they had a really major problem with bullet trains. So when bullet trains used to pass from tunnels, when they used to come out, it used to create a sonic boom sound because of the air pressure inside the tunnel. And because of this sonic boom sound, the people around the locality and the residents, they had a really huge problem of disturbance. So because these bullet trains used to pass in every 30 minutes or 1 hour, every 1 hour you will hear that sonic boom sound, and that was really disturbing for people. Even though the bullet trains were solving a problem for saving your time, but they were creating problems for localites. So this problem was reported to engineers concerned with bullet trains, and they analyzed the problem. What were the reasons? They found out the air pressure present in the tunnel, which is doing the sonic boom sound. So one of this engineer who was part of solving this problem was apparently a bird watcher. So he used to watch birds, he used to analyze birds, he used to do some research, and it was his side hobby. He was just interested in birds. And one of his solution for solving this problem for bullet trains was inspired from kingfisher.
Oh.
He took this inspiration from kingfishers by observing that kingfishers, they prey on their animals by directly jumping into water without even making a sound of splash. And that's how they capture their prey and go out. As per his observation, he observed that it is beak-shaped nose of kingfisher which is helping them to avoid that sound and getting their job done. So they applied the same science in the bullet trains. So if you see the front part of bullet trains, it's slightly bent and it's in shape of a kingfisher nose. And once they implemented the solution, they were able to reduce that air pressure which was caused in tunnels, and then they solved the problem of sonic boom sound. And that's how a kingfisher, who is master of traveling between the mediums of air, water, with a very little splash of sound, inspired engineers to solve a problem for bullet train.
Oh, that's actually fascinating.
Yeah, so that is one example. One more example for biomimicry is the water repel problem. If you see our devices, our smart devices, our watches, they have this modern technology of water repel. They will not allow water to harm their hardware.
Okay, yeah, water resistance and water repellent.
So this was inspired from Lotus. I'll tell you how. Lotus has this nanostructures in the leaf that water, whenever it falls on lotus leaf, it directly rolls down without even making that structure wet. So how this works is the nanostructures are evolved in such a way that they will repel the water, they will make it roll and go out, and also they will do a second job of cleaning that leaf of lotus. So whenever the water is rolling, it will also carry the dust from that leaf. So the same idea, the same technique is used, the same pattern of nanostructures is implemented on our modern devices to repel that water whichever is falling on those devices.
This is actually really interesting because it reminds me of something which I had researched a bit in my school days, if I remember them correctly. The place where I live, there is a science, I would say, small amusement park, but it's where science experiments are conducted. And there was a small initiative there about nanotechnology. When you talked about nanotech and Lotus, it struck me where we used to go for seminars there, and they taught us how nanotechnology works, and they bought us a piece of cloth, and it was a water resistant or water repellent cloth, so it does not get wet basically. And they had mentioned the same similar technology where the scientists got inspired by the lotus leaves and the nanostructures in the lotus leaves to make sure that the cloth is made of a similar structure so that water does not stick to it and water rolls off. So that's actually something quite fascinating, where people get inspired by nature and develop such wonderful products which can be used by us.
It's not just the electronics, the mobile phones and smart devices. So engineers have copied these nanostructures to actually create a water repellent sealant which can be sprayed on tools, vehicles, or any other physical products. So it's not just your phones, it can protect even your cars, it can protect your automobiles as well. One more example is Qualcomm displays. They were actually inspired by butterfly wings.
Like displays, do you mean by phone displays?
Yes.
Wow.
The phone displays. So Qualcomm is a hardware manufacturing company. They create processors, they create several other things here and there, the mobile phones, parts of mobile phones. They were into displays as well. So they were facing a problem that they wanted to create a display which was vibrant in colors and made a feel to user that they're actually looking at something natural rather than just pixels. So they wanted it to be as real as possible. How they implemented this problem was they observed some butterfly wings. How butterfly wings work is by interacting with the light structures and the wing scales, and that's how they create vivid colors. So as soon as the sunlight hits the butterfly wings, they create some wing scales and light interacting structures, create really vivid colors. And this technique, which was naturally done by butterfly, was implemented by Qualcomm to similarly create displays in such a way. They made displays look so real and vibrant that they were much better compared to their competitors, again inspired from nature.
Oh, that's amazing. So do we see those displays in the market, or is it still in the experimental stage?
No, they are not in experimental stage. We do see them in market, but Qualcomm, I'm not really sure about this part of it, but I'm not sure Qualcomm whether gives their brand name to the displays or whether they give it to third party vendors. Not sure about that, but yeah, they're not just for research, they're getting used as well.
Basically, phones are something which we use on a daily basis, and it's nice to learn that something which you use on such a daily basis is inspired from nature.
We have a lot of things around ourselves in the current environment itself which are inspired from nature. So one more example I would like to give. Mm-hmm. So this example is something which is just an observation. I cannot find sources for it, whether it's actually a true example of something, but it's my observation. So we all use Google, right? We use Google for searching our queries. This thing you might have observed in Google is that whenever you search something, you might get some, let's say 10 to 15 results, right? You might get some links, and all these links will be blue in color. But as soon as you visit one page and come back to that result, you might have seen that the color of that visited page gets a little more blue.
Yeah, it becomes darker.
Yeah, it becomes a little darker, right? Compared to other links.
Correct.
Can you tell me the reason why, Anshu, why it happens?
I think because they do it to indicate the users that you have already visited this site, just to give him that information. But it's tough to think of a reason of how this might be inspired by nature.
We believe that this could have been inspired from the process of pollination. So, honeybees, right? They are a huge source of pollination across flowers.
Yeah.
This part of pollination can be a reason of inspiring this color changing links of Google. Why? Is because whenever a bee is sitting on a flower, she might fully consume that flower and go to another flower, right?
Correct.
So during this process, what happens is whenever a bee sucks the nectar out of that flower, particular flower, what happens is that color of the flower starts to change. And this reason behind changing of color is to indicate to other bees that this flower has already been visited. There's no nectar anymore.
Wow.
So this changing of color could have been one of the reasons of lynx changing color because of getting visited. That's just a theory. We don't have any sources to prove that, but yeah.
It's actually quite fascinating to think whether it might be a reason for Google getting inspired to do this, but it's actually something new to learn that bees actually do that.
One or two more examples which we don't have sources to track whether they're actually inspired from nature. But yeah, when we see, it can be possible. So Anshul, you might have seen our salesman, our guys in corporate, or they wear this attire of shirts and pants. And one thing very common with them is there will be a blue shirt and a light brownish pant. Have you seen a guy wearing a blue shirt and light brown pant?
It's pretty common, yeah.
This got very popular because it's very eye soothing. It gave some sense of trust. There is something which can be traced back to nature again because of that color combination. We think that this color combination would have been inspired from sea. If you see, when we go to a beach, color of the water is somewhere blue in color. The sand part of it, where we usually run around, we relax, is light brownish. So that color combination, and if you see the color combination which we are talking about, shirt and pant, is the same. This again might have been inspired from nature. That's the reason we might like that color combination naturally based on our evolution.
Yeah, that's actually something to think about, how some things are, as you just said, might be a result of evolution and psychological conditioning by the nature, because that is where we live in and that is how we have adapted.
For example, similar to that is green shirt and brown pant again. That's again another popular trend, and that could be because of trees in forest. Yeah.
I've read these few things, where they say how color influences a person's mood, and that is why you see these big brands sticking to a certain brand palette. These food brands will usually prefer a bit of red because that is more appealing to the customers, and there's a whole psychology behind it. And it can be all because of a result from nature's conditioning over humans' evolution, and how it influences even design aspects which you work on, where you have to take certain design choices.
Yeah, if you're making a product to signify trust, if you want to show your trust in a brand or security or just long maintenance, you can go with color of blue. That's one example.
You're absolutely correct how these things which have conditioned us over time is so much impacting your job on a day-to-day basis, where you have to make design choices even when designing a logo, or let's say a screen, a website, a page, and how these things might influence you and help you become a better designer in terms of understanding human psychology and what humans find it appealing. One more thing I wanted to actually know more about biomimicry. We learned what biomimicry is, we heard about a few examples, but how do you think can implement it, let's say, in your day-to-day work process? I'm sure it might not be adoptable in all cases, but obviously it might give somebody a thought process on how to start thinking about it or how to start adopting it, and probably let us know on how it has inspired you in designing stuff.
When I was also reading about biomimicry, I had the same question. Now that I'm learning what is biomimicry, what are the examples of it, but what will I do out of it if I even myself don't know how to implement it? So this was also one part of my research. Actually, how can I do it in my design, in my day-to-day problems when I am solving problem as a designer, or anyone like who's listening to this, whomsoever is a creator, a product guy, a developer, or whomsoever is into creating things or creating solutions. So we want to know how can we implement biomimicry? I personally believe as creators, we usually we draw inspiration by looking at the works of renowned artists who are already present in the field. We look upon them as a role model. We observe their work. We get inspired from actual human beings which are present in nature. But we have to broaden this area of inspiration. Like we have to observe nature, the patterns, the strategies of natures. I know this sounds like a very abstract answers. The whole idea of biomimicry is about observing natures. But I have myself jotted down some points, some basic steps, which I think I am also going to implement from now onwards. there are 3 simple steps which I think we can do. First is very obvious. I've repeatedly said it so many times, but I'll say it again, is to observe. It's about taking a closer look at nature and its processes. The second point is to translate. It's about identifying the lessons that are relevant and then pressing the problems. You cannot exactly implement as it is, which is there in nature. You need to translate it in your way, how it can be applicable to your case. And third is, again, I think I stated in second point only, but third is about apply. It's about how you apply it. It's about using the principles of those groundbreaking technology and applying it as efficiently as possible. Even though you might be aware about how nature solves it, and even though you would have translated it, but the application part of it is itself very important. So to conclude it, the 3 simple steps are observing it, translating it to solve your problem, and third is applying it.
That's a very concise way to say it, and a really good observation that everyone should take away, I think, from the whole concept of biomimicry. Okay, so we learned about the various aspects of biomimicry, and how should we go about thinking about it basically and implementing it on our work. But why do you think nature would be an inspiration to all cases? Or let's say, does nature always give the best answer? It might be that we might come up with a way which is more efficient than nature. So why should we limit our foundations or thinking just to nature?
I think for this, I have a really short answer. I'd like to say that you can obviously surely rely on taking inspiration from nature, because you have to see that life or nature has been on Earth from last 3.8 billion years. I think that, my friend, is a lot of research and development, spent when compared to an average amount of time spent by a human being.
That is absolutely true. But as always, it has been fun talking to you. It's amazing the amount of things that I will take away from this episode, learning about the whole aspect of interaction design, which I was not that familiar before, and the whole new concept of biomimicry and how to think about it, and the examples that we see on a day-to-day basis. And hopefully the listeners might be also inspired by this and take something new, learn something new from this episode. Thank you for being a guest in this podcast. It's amazing to talk to you.
Thank you for inviting Anshul.
Thank you so much, and I'm sure that I'll call you back for a next episode where we discuss something new, something interesting, something new for people to learn. Probably venture into your new interest. I have also learned that you are also fascinated about astronomy, and you were really fascinated from the first episode that we released on the astrophotography one. So it might be that we might do an episode on that where we dive into your interests about space, astronomy, and questioning reality as a whole. But let's keep it for our next episode, and I'll get in touch with you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Sure, Anshul. Let's do that. Bye-bye.
Thank you to all the listeners. I'll catch up with you again soon with someone new and lots of interesting discussions. So, bye.